Hello everybody. We are back with the current affairs series of our lecture. ठीक है, तो we are having a good number of topics today to discuss. क्योंकि there has been a gap in our class due to last some interruptions. ठीक है, so this lecture will be covering around 1.5 week today. ठीक है, so we have a bunch of topics that are very important from our prelims as well as mains, both aspects. ठीक है, so now I have tried to cover these topics in the sense that they reflect both the prelims as well as the mains concept. ठीक है, the first one is democracy index. Okay, democracy index is released by the Economist newspaper. Actually it is a magazine, but it calls itself a newspaper. ठीक है, it was founded in 1843. It is released by Economist Intelligence Unit of the Economist magazine or newspaper. The theme this year was the ranking or the index that this democracy index reflects is for the year 2019-20. ठीक है, so the theme this year has been the effect of pandemic on democracy across the world. The major observation that this report makes is the democracy has seen a fall throughout the world, that the indicators of democracy like the free speech, civil liberties, political culture, these indicators of democracy have seen a fall throughout the world. ठीक है, mostly on the account of the coercive measures that the countries have adopted to curb the spread of the pandemic, like lockdowns. ठीक है, another important observation that this report makes is the countries in Eurasia, basically Asia and the Eastern Europe, or you can say that is majorly Eurasia or the Middle East, and also Australia, Asia, that portion. ठीक है, these portions have benefited actually from the lockdowns imposed or from the curbs that were imposed on the civil liberties. ठीक है, and these countries have benefited in tackling this pandemic up to a certain extent using these coercive measures. ठीक है, so these are like outlines of the what we call this democracy index that has been released by the Economist newspaper. Now India has been ranked 53rd in this index. India has been ranked 53rd. That is, this position is the worst position that India has ever secured in this ranking. 53rd is the worst ever position that India has secured in the Economist का जो democracy index की ranking है उसमें, that is, this is the poorest of all the positions that India has till now secured. In 2018 it was 41. ठीक है, in 2019 it was 51, and we have seen a dip of 2 places from the last year. Okay, in 2018 से 12 places का dip है. India was ranked 27th in 2015. In 2014 actually, India was, the position of India in the democracy index, it was still a flawed democracy, but still the position of India was highest. Like the highest position as India achieved in this ranking was in 2014. The report mentions that there has been a constant degradation of democratic values in the country after 2014. And also it makes a sincere observation that the secular fiber of the country has been dented due to the what we call the communal politics, as this report mentions, of the incumbent government. ठीक है, तो this whole ranking was started in 2006. ठीक है, it was started in 2006. For the first time it was released in 2006, and since then it has released this ranking every year, and the first position has been secured by Norway, as we all know, because of all these positions in happiness index, you know, and there's democracy index. All these positions usually go to the Baltic countries or Nordic countries. ठीक है, Now you can see that what is the ranking. Okay, this map represents the ranking of the regions and the countries according to the democracy index. The democracy index provides a value on 5 parameters. ठीक है, एंड उन 5 पैरामीटर्स का एवरेज लेके एक ओवरऑल स्कोर देते हैं. वो स्कोर होता है 0 से 10 के बीच में. दैट स्कोर लाइज बिटवीन 0 to 10. नाउ हियर यू कैन सी full democracies are those whose score is from 8 to 10, flawed democracies 6 to 8, hybrid regimes 4 to 6, authoritarian regimes 0 to 4. Authoritarian regimes are those countries where complete dictatorship, like North Korea, or even China is an authoritarian regime. Hybrid regimes where authoritarianism is dominant, but still at least on paper a democratic kind of government exists, like Pakistan. Flawed democracies where the performance on certain parameters is not very good but better than the average, like better than the mean value for like 5 से ज़्यादा हो but not very good. ठीक है, so these are called flawed democracies. मतलब they are democracies but they have flaws in themselves, like they are not performing up to the expected parameters, up to the expected values on specified parameters. ठीक है, and full democracies are those according to like those who have the fullest performance in this the 5 parameters that on which the democracy index is calculated. ठीक है, so you can see Canada is a full democracy. Fine. USA has now been shifted to flawed democracy. Okay. One particular observation is France and Portugal has now also been shifted to flawed democracies. Whereas Japan, Taiwan and South Korea, these three countries were earlier flawed democracies. Now they have become full democracies. That means 2 countries have exited the full democratic status. They are France and Portugal, and 3 countries have upgraded themselves to a full democracy from a flawed democracy. They are Japan, Taiwan and South Korea. ठीक है. India, as we can see, is a flawed democracy. ठीक है. This map is not correct. It is not correct, so I will draw it. ठीक है. Now it seems a bit correct, but Economist newspaper was once seized for the misrepresentation of India's map. Again, they have done this, but this is not the right thing to do. I took this snapshot from the Economist magazine, the report itself, and that is why this misrepresentation, which I have not now tried to correct. Okay, you can see this region, okay, the red color. This region is primarily authoritarian regime. मतलब Middle East, South, this one, Sub-Saharan Africa, okay, and other Africa other than South Africa. This part, इसको छोड़ के, the other parts are what? Authoritarian regimes. Okay. Now, what are the 5 parameters on which this index judges the democratic performance? Is electoral process and pluralism. ठीक है. Functioning of government. The third is political participation. 5th is political culture, and this one is civil liberties. तो what is electoral process? Electoral process को अगर define करने की बात है, तो electoral process and pluralism represents the kind of elections that are taking place in country. Are the elections free and fair? And the pluralism in that sense represents, is there a multiplicity of parties that are contesting? That means, is the election free and fair, and are there multiplicity of parties that are contesting the elections? The second one is functioning of government. For example, like in India, recently the government passed the form laws, fine, but those laws are facing hurdles in implementation. Matlab, a democracy is only as good as it is in functioning. ठीक है? Why? Because even if the parliament which has been duly elected has passed a law that does not has a popular support, okay, then the functioning of the government will be hampered. Okay, that means if a country secures a lower score in this one, it implies that although the electoral processes in the country are going fine, although a duly elected parliament is there, but the laws that are being formed do not have the popular support. Okay, that means now you can see this is global average, and okay, I took this screenshot from the same report. It is about Asia and Australasia, Asia and Australia, Southeast Asia मिला के, ठीक है, democracy index. So you don't have to go through the numbers, but what we are primarily concerned about is the parameters on which the democracy index is judged. Okay, political participation represents how aware is the citizenry about the political process, or how much is the voter turnout. Okay, that is called political participation. या ethnic religious जो diversity है वो कितना political representation मिल रहा है उसको, that is called political participation. For example, minorities in India, are they getting the proper representation in parliament? Actually they are underrepresented. Like for Muslims there is 11% representation in the parliament, ठीक है, despite the fact that the population is around 18 to 20 14 to 15%, the representation is not proportionate. Okay, that factor comes into effect in political participation when we judge political participation. The next is political culture. Now political culture represents the kind of is the citizenry very docile. Docile means, is there a protest? Are there protests going on? Are there any dissent? How is the citizenry? How is the civil society? Are the people supporting its government fully, or is there any kind of dissent in the democracy? If there is no dissent, then political culture is not very good. Understood? If there is no criticism of the government, that means the citizenry has become a very docile citizenry, and that is not a good thing for democracy. That is not a good thing for a healthy democracy. That is why political culture is accounted for. Civil liberties, we all know, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of electronic media, freedom of media as whole, ठीक है, these are called civil liberties. तो पैंडेमिक के टाइम में civil liberties were severely curbed, ठीक है. Of course, the freedom of movement was curbed, despite the fact that it was done to control the pandemic. Still, the civil liberties were curbed. Okay, so we are not concerned with these numbers. They are not important from our exam point of view. What we are concerned with is the kind of the 5 electoral process and pluralism, functioning of government, political culture, political participation, and civil liberties. Okay. What are the important observations? The first one is only 49.4% of the total people of the whole world are living in some kind of democracy. Some kind of democracy includes hybrid regimes, flawed democracies, and what the complete democracies. अब 49.4% में से भी, sorry, out of this 49.4%, ठीक है, 49.4% is the total amount of people who are living in some kind of democracy of the whole world is 49.4%. Out of this, 8% of the people, 8.4% of the people, sorry, are living in perfect democracies, or the countries who have the score greater than 8 and less than 10. ठीक है, only 8.4% of the population of the world lives in that kind of democracy. Understood? मतलब 41% of the whole population of the world lives in either flawed democracy or kind of hybrid regimes. ठीक है. Now full democracies increased from 22 to 23 in 2020. Why? Two countries have been downgraded from full democracy while three countries have been upgraded to full democracy. That leaves a total increment of one. The two countries that have been downgraded are Portugal and France, and the countries which have been upgraded are Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. And Taiwan's case have been made very strongly in this democracy index, and Taiwan has actually been cited as the greatest achiever of in all these parameters that we discussed recently. Okay. Authoritarian regimes are up. That means earlier from 54 countries, now there are 57 countries. Although this index does not consider the military uprising of Myanmar. Okay. Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa and Middle East. Sub-Saharan, as we talked about, Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, ठीक है. Sub-Saharan यानी अफ्रीका के सहारा डेजर्ट के नीचे वाला अफ्रीका. Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa मतलब Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, all these countries. And Middle East means Saudi Arabia, Yemen, है ना, और Iraq, Iran, Syria, ये सारी countries. These countries are mostly governed by authoritarian regimes. ठीक है. Asia and Australasia has seen a fall in the index. 70% countries saw a fall. 70% of the countries saw a fall, while 22.6% countries saw an increase in the performance parameters. ठीक है. Taiwan has been mentioned as the biggest achiever, while Mali has been mentioned as the biggest loser. That is, the highest loss of score has been accounted to Mali, and highest gain of scores on these parameters has been accounted to Taiwan. I told you this. What is the performance of India? India's democracy index. This one is for 2019. Okay. This color is for 2019. This is for 2020. So what are the observations regarding India? Electoral process and pluralism, that is consistent. What that means, India is actually having a fine electoral process, and there is a multiplicity of parties that are contesting in elections in India. Okay. Functioning of government has actually increased 7.41% from 6.79%. That is, the implementation of policies in India is increasing. Okay. Political participation is also consistent as it was last year. Okay. There has been a decline in both civil liberties as well as political culture. 5.63 से 5 पे आ गया है, 6.76 से 5.59 पे आ गया है. तो these parameters we are political culture. Political culture implies the kind of dissent that a country has, the role of civil society, ठीक है, the role of people who are dissenting, the dissenting voices, protests, ठीक है. So we have seen a decline actually because of the CAA and NRC protests. We have seen that the political culture of the country is on decline. ठीक है. And civil liberties, of course, have been curbed due to pandemic and also due to CAA and NRC protests that were going on last year, December. Overall score has seen a fall from 6.9 to 6.61. Now, this is important from our exam point of view. From our exam point of view, another important thing is this one, that India has seen a fall in political culture and civil liberties. Okay. India peaked in 2014 with a value of 7.294 and it has since been falling. Okay. Democratic norms are under pressure and secular fabric of the country has been dented. These two things have been basically accounted to the last year CAA NRC protests. Okay. And Delhi riots also. Now decline is political culture, civil liberties as we saw. Gains electoral process, political participation gain in the sense that they have not seen a decline, तो they have been consistent, तो इसलिए